The Witzer let out a deep roar that echoed throughout the whole mountain, and was immediately followed by an old but powerful voice. "Who gave you the courage to trespass my Golden Court Mountain?" The voice was menacing, so everyone was taken aback. They judged that the speaker should be an old man who was unlikely to be an expert based on the energy contained in the voice. Nevertheless, it was strong enough to echo throughout the mountain. Cultivators dotting the mountain all looked up in surprise as Witzer approached on clouds. Legendary mounts were rare, let alone one that came with an auspicious aura. Who was the speaker? Inside Evil Sky Pavilion, the chained Duanmu Sheng was the first to recognize his master's voice, and he cried out loudly, "Welcome back, master." His voice rang out like thunder and frightened all the righteous cultivators, causing them to tremble with fear and run out in panic. Soon, all the empty fields on the mountain were packed with cultivators. Duanmu Sheng straightened up and stepped outside Evil Sky Pavilion. When he saw Witzer, who was diving down fast in the sky, his excitement reached its peak. At that moment, he felt a rush of pride and a great sense of confidence. "Not good. It's the old villain." Don't panic. According to internal intelligence, the old villain is long at the end of his tether. He has relied on the secret drug of Primal Fiend. Form the array. I want all Divine Court experts and above to assemble right now. More than a dozen Divine Court cultivators soon gathered above Evil Sky Pavilion. A short moment later, Fang Jinshan and Zhou Jifeng arrived as well. Everyone looked at the auspicious aura that swirled in the sky over Evil Sky Pavilion incredulously. Lu Zhou stood on Witzer's back as he glanced at the whole Golden Court Mountain. As Yi Qianxin said, the mountain was invaded by a group of ignorant cultivators. Yi Qianxin's lips twisted into a smile. She wanted to laugh out loud, but she could not. The great pain from the destruction of her Dantian had taken away her strength to speak. The reason why she had been able to stay awake until now was that she wanted to see how the old villain would deal with the situation. Lu Zhou was thinking about how he would deal with the situation. He had two options. The first one was to use the last peak form experience card. However, it was his biggest trump card, and he would have no other methods to protect himself after using it. The second option was to flee Golden Court Mountain with Witzer. After all, Duanmu Sheng and Mingshi Yin were villainous disciples, and their death would not bother him. Should he use the last peak form experience card or flee? He had used one peak form experience card to capture just Yi Qianxin, which he considered to be a loss. The only consolation was that he was rewarded with a lot of merit points after the battle. Yi Qianxin could see that Lu Zhou was thinking, so she said with great difficulty, "Let me... Oh, you have no more trump cards." Lu Yuaner tightened her grip on Yi Qianxin and snorted, "In your dreams." The cultivators of the righteous sect had assembled, ready to face the formidable enemy. Cultivators beneath the Brahma Sea realm were clever enough to hide behind those stronger ones. Lu Zhou glanced at the crowd. He saw through the eye of truth that the frenzied cultivators were all hostile toward him. Wait, is that Zhou Jifeng? His loyalty is 15%? It has increased by 5% compared to when he left the Heavenly Sword sect. Lu Zhou did not understand. Fang Jinshan looked up and said in a cold voice, "I thought some formidable foes are here, but it turns out to be the old villain of Golden Court Mountain. Duanmu Sheng has been captured by me, and Mingshi Yin is seriously wounded by us. Golden Court Mountain belongs to the righteous sect now. Come down now to face your death. Come down. Come down. Come down." They were facing a legendary mount after all, who could only be caught up by nascent divinity tribulation experts. Fang Jinshan was trying to go Lu Zhou down. As long as the old villain came down to ground, they would have a chance to catch him. This is a tough decision to make. How I wish I could save a peak form experience card. Lu Zhou shook his head and said in a deep voice, "Well, bam." Right then, Zhou Jifeng moved as quickly as lightning and thrust a sword beam toward Fang Jinshan, causing sparks to fly in all directions. The moment the beam stabbed into Fang Jinshan's heart, it was blocked by a strange object. At the same time, a violent force threw Zhou Jifeng back and numbed his arms, rocking his chi and blood. Why is Fang Jinshan so strong? "What are you doing, Zhou Jifeng?" Someone cried out in shock. Fong Jinshan did a backward somersault and dodged a fatal blow as he stared furiously at Zhou Jifeng and said, "Why did you do this to me?" Zhou Jifeng did not expect that the assassination would fail at such a close distance. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou still hovered in the sky as he watched with a great interest and surprised look. "I didn't expect you'd be able to block my attack," said Zhou Jifeng. Fong Jinshan laughed. "Did anyone tell you that there is a huge gap between a cultivator with a heaven-grade weapon and one without? A heaven-grade weapon?" Zhou Jifeng was very confident in the attack. He had been brewing for a long time. If he managed to get close enough, even a nascent divinity tribulation expert might not be able to block it. However, he did not expect that his target would have a heaven-grade treasure. What kind of weapon was it? "Why do you think sect leader only sends me, a divine court cultivator, to Golden Court Mountain?" Fong Jinshan sneered. Liu Yuana grew anxious as she watched. "Master, they make me so angry. I can't believe a group of mere divine court cultivators can be so wanton." Lu Zhou shook his head as he looked at Fong Jinshan and said, "The shield of the dragon heart. I don't think it can be considered a heaven-grade treasure." Fong Jinshan was startled. "How do you know it is the shield of the dragon heart?" Lu Zhou's expression remained the same. He did not have to argue with a junior. It would only drag him down in status. Little Yuaner snorted and said, "What's so strange about it? You were still playing with mud when my master held sway over the world." She was telling the truth. When Ji Tiandao became famous all over the world, none of the people present were born in the face of the old villain. They were all ignorant kids who had not seen the world. "I'm giving you all a chance to live. Put down the weapons in your hands. Fix the damage you have done to Golden Court Mountain, and serve me on the mountain for 3 years. If you agree, I can forget everything you have done today." He spoke neither too slow nor fast, and his voice was light and calm. Hearing him, Fong Jinshan suddenly burst into laughter, and then the dozen divine court cultivators in front of him laughed as well. It was as if they had heard the funniest joke in the world. The old villain finally gave up evil and returned to good. Instead of killing people, he now wanted to let people live, and all they had to do was fix Golden Court Mountain and serve him for 3 years? Wasn't this funny? It was too funny. I had offered you the chance. Since you don't cherish it, you might as well stay here forever. Right then, Yi Tianxin raised her heavy eyelids and saw a shocking scene as the old villain's aura bloomed once again. Her head tilted as she wanted to lift it to have a better look. Unfortunately, she only saw the 9-leaf golden lotus appear next to the old villain before she fainted. It was a 9-leaf 100 tribulations inside Avatar. The color of the world seemed to have changed in that moment. In the blink of an eye, the sky over Evil Sky Pavilion was occupied by the colossal Avatar, causing the cultivators to gawk at it in shock. Why was his first move an ultimate skill? Shouldn't he attack with a few normal skills before using that? Master is the mightiest man in the world. There was a look of admiration on Duan Musheng's face. Meanwhile, Zhou Jifeng broke out in a sweat. He hurriedly put down the sword in his hand and dropped to his knees as he shouted, "Old Senior is the mightiest man in the world." Both men's loyalty increased by 5% at the same time. Lu Zhou did not choose to run away. Instead, he crushed the last peak form experience card. The moment his weak, dried-up sea of chi was filled, he knew that he had returned to the peak once again. Lu Zhou did not choose to save the last peak form experience card. On the day he became Ji Tiandao, his decision had been made. He was destined to keep going along this path. There was no safe place in this treacherous cultivation world. Golden Court Mountain was his haven and foundation, and he would not allow anyone to take it away from him. He had 2 more intentions. He wanted to take this opportunity to warn the world, and those who were eyeing Golden Court Mountain, that he did not rely on a secret drug, but his own strength. Only the strength that truly belonged to him could erupt continuously. There was no secret drug, external force, or trick in the world that could do that. The disciples of the righteous sect and heavenly sword sect were struck dumb. Under the deterrence of the 9-leaf 100 tribulations inside Avatar, they seemed to have forgotten how to move. In addition to amplifying the caster's power, an Avatar had a certain deterring effect against enemies. Moreover, the greater the gap between cultivation bases, the stronger the effect would be. As a result, cultivators below the divine court realm all lay face down on the ground, trembling. Even Fong Jinshan, who was the strongest among all, could not help but swallow and take a step back. He was scared and panicked, wanted to flee. He had the shield of Dragonheart, and it could help him escape. But he must first find an opportunity. Zhou floated in the sky and looked down at the crowd before his eyes rested on Duanmu Sheng. Duanmu Sheng. Yes, master. Duanmu Sheng trembled. The final part of the Divine One technique includes a sword technique and a spear technique. I will demonstrate them to you now, but only once. Watch carefully. Duanmu Sheng was overjoyed when he heard that. He joined the sect very early, but his progress was slower than other disciples. Although Ji Tiandao had taught him the complete Divine One technique, he had failed to master the final part even after cultivating it for years. He had been studying it by himself, though, which was no different from walking in total darkness, resulting in the slow progress. Zhou used his fingers in place of a sword, and a sword beam condensed from energy appeared on them. Use your fingers to condense energy into a sword. Imperfect divine intervention. A terrifying power exploded out from between his index and middle fingers, accompanied by a blinding light. Then, the sword strike shot straight down toward Fong Jinshan. No. Fong Jinshan's eyes grew wide as he screamed at the top of his lungs. A powerful energy exploded out of him, and at the same time, the heaven-grade treasure was instantly triggered, from which came bursting out a beam of golden light. It's the shield of the Dragonheart. The primary function of the shield of the Dragonheart was to serve as a defense, protecting Fong Jinshan from being defeated. It was also the reason why the sect leader of the righteous sect sent him here, because he could fight even a nascent divinity tribulation expert. Even if he could not win, he would still have a chance to escape. Second Elder. Cultivators around watched as the sword strike fell and exploded into a blinding light that forced them to close their eyes. Boom! Before the cultivators could find out about the aftermath of the attack and whether Fong Jinshan was still alive or not, Zhou's old but powerful voice rang out again. Use your palm as a base and condense your energy. 1,000 waves. This was the result when the Divine One technique was used in the form of a spear technique. It was a ranged attack, and as its name implied, it overlapped a stream of energy into 1,000 waves, which were then thrust out like 1,000 spears. It was also a key ultimate move of the Divine One technique. At the sight of the attack, all Divine Court cultivators gaped while their expression changed drastically. Not good. Run. They quickly stopped forming the ridiculous array and turned around to flee. The attack was so monstrous that even a nascent divinity tribulation expert would not dare to face it. However, it was not targeted at the group of cultivators. Instead, it fell at the same spot where Fong Jinshan was. Boom! No one knew if he were still alive after the attack, because their vision was blocked by a cloud of dust. No one knew if he could withstand such a mighty attack, even with the shield of the Dragonheart. The collision generated powerful blasts that spread out in all directions, knocking and throwing all the Divine Court cultivators to the ground. For a moment, miserable shrieks and screams filled the air. Even Zhou Jifeng, a genius in cultivation, was hit by the blasts and had to block them with his own energy so that he could stand still. He is stronger than when the top 10 experts besieged Golden Court Mountain. Is it because of his 9-leaf 100 tribulations inside Avatar? Thought Zhou Jifeng. He was sure about one thing. Ji Tiandao had become stronger. However, he did not understand why Zhou used such a mighty move to deal with Fong Jinshan, who was merely a Divine Court cultivator. It felt like using a sledgehammer on a gnat. There was no way the shield of Dragonheart could withstand the attack. He had no doubts that the heaven-grade treasure was already destroyed when it was hit by the first strike. He reckoned that the reason Zhou continued to attack was either to vent his anger or to guide his disciple. After the 2 strikes, the wind subsided, clouds faded, and the dust and energy blast that blotted the sky gradually dissipated as well. Zhou wore a calm expression as he clasped his hands behind his back. He glanced at the time on the system panel and saw that it had only been 3 minutes. It would be a loss if he only used the last peak form experience card to deal with this group of cultivators. In fact, What he planned to do was more than that. Did you watch them clearly? Duanmu Sheng went down on his knees and said, "Yes. Thank you, Master. It is better to watch Master demonstrate the techniques than to practice alone for 10 years. Very good." As the dust gradually settled, a huge pit was revealed on the ground below the avatar. But Fong Jinshan was nowhere to be found. He was completely gone. Right then, the cultivators began to flee in all directions in panic. Master, Liu Yuaner grew anxious. If he still did not let her attack, they would soon escape. The group of cultivators was trying to replicate the approach they used during the last siege of Golden Court Mountain. Zhou was formidable, but he did not have 3 heads and 6 arms, and he could not clone himself. As long as they fled separately, he would not be able to catch them all. It was the perfect strategy they had thought of when they came, sacrificing a few people to save the lives of the majority. Since they could not defeat him, they would run away. I've said that you all have to stay here, and that means none of you can run away from me. The 9-leaf 100 Tribulations Insight Avatar flickered and emerged over the Golden Court Mountain. Then, Zhou drove it into the eyes of the mountain's restrictive array. Master, Duanmu Sheng was stunned. He did not know what the other was going to do. Liu Yuaner also looked up with confusion. Meanwhile, the cultivators dared not look back and kept running desperately. Unfortunately, they were not nascent divinity tribulation cultivators, and they could not use great divine abilities to escape. Right then, Zhou poured all the energy in his dantian into the eye of the array. Master is fixing the shield? This, how is this possible? The shield of Golden Court Mountain was constructed by generations of senior experts. It absorbed a great amount of energy and worked in conjunction with weather and geographical position. Previously, when Zhou punished his 3rd, 4th, and 5th disciples to fix it, it would take them at least 3 years to complete the work. Moreover, it would take at least 10 years for one person to repair the shield. Master's old. Shouldn't he be conserving his strength? Why would he do that? This was Zhou's real intention, also his second intention. Since the peak form experience card could keep filling his dantian, and it did not take him too much time to finish Fong Jinshan, he thought, why couldn't he use the remaining time to fix the shield? How could he waste such a good chance? As a tremendous amount of energy poured into the array's eyes, a glass-like shield immediately appeared around the mountain, blocking the fleeing cultivators. The realization dawned on Duanmu Sheng right then. Master wants to trap them all with the shield, and then catch them one by one. The old saying proved to be right. The older, the wiser. Zhou Jifeng was shocked by the terrifying, unlimited energy as well. Previously, when he led other cultivators to destroy the shield, he had used all his strength, and yet it just would not budge. He never thought Ji Tiandao could fix it alone. At that moment, Zhou did not stop, but continued to pour the energy. The shield was not truly fixed yet, and he needed to connect the eye with the arrays in different places. Only when they formed a continuous connection could the energy flow through the whole shield without interruption. If truth be told, Zhou himself was also surprised by the bug of the peak form experience card, which provided him unlimited energy.